Welcome back to Gentle Growth with Ivy. As always, this is Ivy, and today I have a special guest with me. I would love to introduce Jennie. So, Jennie, go ahead and tell us about yourself.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ivy. I'm Jennie Henderson. I live in Western British Columbia, and I am a spiritual business mentor. I work with women all over the world, primarily North America, American Canada, and I help them learn how to start, grow, or scale their online soul-led businesses so that they can thrive using their gifts. Because I know from my personal experience that so many of us believe that it has to be a struggle or a hustle and a grind. And I've
hmm
come to learn that that's just not the case.
Yeah, it can actually have more of it's still, not so much of a hustle. You do still have to work, but it can be like easy and like come naturally to you.
Absolutely. When we're taking aligned action from the place of really, really connecting in with our purpose and what we're here to do. I mean, for myself, I know that I'm meant to make an impact in the world. And I know that the women that I work with are also meant to make an impact in the world. Excuse me. And when we focus on that, rather than, oh, I need to get a sale or I need to make more money or I really need this business to work so I don't have to go back to my job, that's a
hmm
completely different energy. And a lot of what I teach my clients is about the energy of business, not just the masculine energy of this is what you do and this is how you do it.
hmm And you don't necessarily need like the money as confirmation that you're doing the right thing as well.
Absolutely. There's
Yeah.
lots and lots of times where we'll get the evidence that what we're doing is aligned or what we're doing is not aligned. And the fact of the matter is, money is just an energetic exchange today.
hmm
Go back a few hundred years, that energetic exchange could have been rice or oats or a goat.
Yeah.
Um, and, a lot of us, particularly if you identify as a spiritual entrepreneur or even if that's not exactly the language that you use, if you know that you are here to help people, that your business is meant to help people in their journey, and that you really are working from your purpose, then absolutely there should be an energetic exchange. And again, today that energetic exchange just happens to be money. It
Yeah.
can be a little bit uncomfortable for a lot of us sometimes to talk about money, depending on
Mhm.
how we were raised and what I've come to learn because I'm also a student of shamanism and a psychic medium. What I've come to learn is that a lot of us have past life stuff that really has
Mhm.
an effect on what we're doing today.
Oh yeah, we definitely have a lot of like karmic release that we got to do here. So I fully believe that.
Yeah,
Well, I
absolutely.
love that. I love that. I know, like last night I was at an event and I had a woman talk to me. She was asking me what, like how I'm doing with my clients and stuff, and like she was kind of asking about profits. And I was like, well, honestly, I'm in debt. I haven't made a
Mhm.
single penny yet. But like it's so rewarding and I'm helping people and I don't know, I love what I do even though I haven't made a penny yet. Like I'm still it's a good energy exchange still. There were still so many women that I talked to last night that were telling me how relatable I am and how like touching I am and how I just kind of like
Mhm.
touch their heart and stuff. And it was so valuable to me. It really was a valuable evening. So
Absolutely.
I love
And
that.
Ivy, full transparency, I have been there. I grew up on welfare. I
Same.
was 18 when I was pregnant with my son. He's
Mhm.
18 years old now at the time of filming this.
Girl,
And
I've seen your pictures. You age gracefully.
well,
Whew.
people are always like assuming that I'm his sister because,
Yeah,
he's
I
18,
miss.
I'm 38. He's going to be
Yeah.
19 soon. But, I sat in that welfare office as well at 18
hmm
pregnant. And for myself, I didn't make any money in my business for the first 5 years. I've been a mentor for almost 10 years now. And those
Wow.
first 5 years, I made nothing. I made less than nothing, actually. I had a
Yeah.
deficit in my business. For me, I had to invest in a business mentor in order to take these giant leaps in my business. Today, I
Mhm.
teach women how to create six-figure businesses because that's what I do. I created a
Wow.
six-figure business and I've been consistent with it, and it comes easily today. If
Mhm.
you want to rewind the clock 5 years ago, I literally worked 80 to 90 hours every single week because I believed you have to work hard to make money. Money
Mhm.
doesn't grow on trees. Money is the root of all evil. And
Yes.
I struggled to barely make enough to pay for my expenses. And
Mhm.
investing in that business mentor completely changed my career. It completely changed my relationship with money. And it also
Mhm.
changed how I show up for my soulmate clients because I realized that by burning the candle at both ends, yes, I was coming from a place of intention, but my clients were not getting the best version of me because as an empath, which I'm sure many people listening can resonate with that
Mhm.
term, a lot of us are empaths today.
Mhm.
I was just absorbing everybody else's crap. I had no boundaries in my business. I was
Mhm.
giving everything away for free or next to nothing, which I
Mhm.
still do. I teach my clients to give value and make sure you have lots of free offerings to make sure
Mhm.
that you can still touch the people who can't necessarily afford your services.
Mhm.
But you also, if you are an expert, there is absolute value in your clients investing in you because what I learned through my own experience and through mentoring nearly 1,000 women at this point is that if we've got no skin in the game, we're not going to commit. When
Right.
you pay attention. And I see that because my clients today, they, this time last year, they weren't making any money in their businesses either. And now all of a
Yeah.
sudden they'll have a five-figure month and they're like, "What is
Mhm.
this? What is going on? I can't believe this is my life."
Yeah, it's definitely a major, major mindset change. I'm still new in my business, and I'm a mental health coach. And
Yes.
I grew up with mental health struggles, and it's hard for me to even put a price tag on my work, especially because I've been helping people all my life for free. And
Mhm.
so it's really hard for me to put a price tag on that now. But if I need to sustain myself. I live in this economy
Yes.
just like everybody else. And so, we do have to end up charging. And another part of that is also investing in your business so that you're worth charging for. And
Absolutely.
so
Which
I've had to pay for my website, pay for
Mhm.
knowledge and things like that. So I agree.
Absolutely. One of the things that I teach as well is energy management and how to connect with your intuition. Because
Hmm.
intuitively, you and anybody listening who is in the same boat as you and I, who has a service based business, who is leading from the heart, we intuitively know what the most aligned price is for us. For example, at one point in time, like I love synchronistic numbers, I charge $222 a week for my service. And some
Hmm.
people said, that's asinine. There's no way I can do that in today's economy. And other
Right.
people said, oh, that's less than I pay for therapy every week. That's a great price. And,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
that's what was a significant amount. But
Hmm.
I knew I did a meditation. I woke up and I thought to myself, 222 a week, that's the right price. And it just felt good. And the first time I said it was terrifying. And the person said, well, can I pay in full? Do I have to pay weekly? And it was confirmation from the
Wow.
universe that my soulmate clients have no problem paying that. Now, mind you, once again, I have lots of free offerings. I have lots of
Hmm.
low price offerings because I know that not everybody will be able to fit that in their budget. But whether they're able to or whether they have convinced themselves that they can't are two different things because often, especially as women and mothers, we have a tremendous amount of guilt for spending
Hmm.
money on ourselves. Even if
Hmm.
it's in our business, it's like, oh, it's selfish to spend money on yourself. You should always make sure to put the kids and the house and your spouse and the pets and your extended family and your friends,
Hmm.
put all of those people first
Yeah.
and then maybe take care of yourself. And, I can say this from also a place of experience because before I was a business mentor, I was a mindset and health coach. My program was called Muscles, Macros, and Mindset. And
That's cute.
every single client of mine was struggling with taking the time to themselves to work out. And I
Hmm.
know so many people listening are going to resonate with this. Like,
Including myself.
yes, yes.
Yes. Yep.
Taken me a long time. My son's 18 years old, like I said. It's taken me a long time to realize
Hmm.
that I actually show up as a much better mother when I take time to myself. And when I say time to myself, I'm talking like I've got a 2-hour morning ritual every
Yeah.
single day. And I also have a 1-hour morning or evening ritual every single night. I take
Oh, I
3
love
hours
that.
a day just for me, plus lots of little times throughout the day as well.
Hmm. Yeah, that's definitely super important. I know before I began like my healing journey, I was very stretched thin, and personally, I found my happiness in making other people happy. And so that was taking care of my child, taking care of my partner, the house, my friends, my family. And that's how I got my happiness, but it wasn't sustainable because I was so stretched thin. So, and it was, that's how I got to kind of, my deepest, kind of like darkest era, I guess. And that's what forced me to figure out how to get better.
That's
Um,
exactly it.
it is. But now that I'm giving back to myself first and making sure that I'm taken care of before I go and help other people, whenever I do go help other people, I'm fulfilled first. So I don't need their reaction to fulfill me, because I used to deal with the disappointment of people's reaction to what I'm doing for them, not, meeting my expectations, which is very toxic. um,
Absolutely.
and so I'm fulfilled first. I'm doing it because I want to, not because I have to for my happiness. And they're just ultimately getting a better version of me. Everybody around me is getting a calmer, happier, and just more fulfilled version of me. And I love that.
Absolutely, absolutely, and the
Hmm.
part that a lot of us are not conscious of is in those moments when you are filling your cup back up, Ivy,
Hmm.
that's when we're gonna get the most intuitive downloads. That's when our higher self is going to speak with us. That's when our spirit guides are gonna speak with us. That's when our intuition is going to speak with us. If
Hmm.
I think back to myself when my children were younger and I was still in my people pleasing era where, I would get a bath, and I'd be like, okay, this is self care. I'm going to light some candles. I'm going to get a bath. But then I'd be on my phone the
Yep.
entire time. And it's like, okay,
Hmm.
well, I'm multitasking. I'm catching up on social media, which is really code word for numbing out. I mean, I gave up
Yes.
alcohol and I don't do any other toxic types of numbing out. So my toxic trait is doom scrolling on my
Same.
phone,
That is
right?
mine as well. Yep.
Yeah,
Because
it's
same.
so
Yep.
easy today. It's so easy. And
It
then
is.
today is totally different. If I get a
Hmm.
bath, it's like an hour, no cell phone whatsoever. I'm very,
Yep.
very intentional about it. And I get out of the bath and I'm like, oh my God, I have so many good ideas.
Hmm.
There's
I
so many
know.
good ideas because we're in those moments of silence and stillness, or even if you have some music on, that's great too.
Hmm.
In those moments of true self-care, not like getting your nails done and gossiping with your nail lady, that's not self-care.
Hmm.
Getting that bath with a cell phone, not self-care.
Yep.
Going for a
Yep.
walk with, toddlers, not exactly self-care.
Tell me about it. Unless it's in my backyard, because I have a really nice backyard. Unless it's
Yeah.
in my own backyard, it is stressful. And
Yeah.
even in my own backyard, it can be stressful. So,
Yes, that's right, but when we do have the actual undivided attention to ourselves for
hmm.
ourselves, we can receive so, so much, and
Hmm.
that's where I'll be quite frank with you, that's where some of my most aligned business ideas have come from in regards
Hmm.
to I have so many different offerings, like my main program is 16 weeks long, but I've dreamed up ideas for 5-day long retreats before just
Wow.
sitting in the bath. I've
Yeah.
these incredible mini readings and 21-day programs while in the shower and walking alone in the woods, things like that.
Mhm.
I think that a lot of the times, if we can just put that guilt aside for a moment and
Mhm.
realize it is not selfish to take self-care. In fact,
Yes.
it's the best thing that we can do for the people that
Mhm.
we love because they will get the best version of us. Then we're going to be able to not only fill our own cup, but also get really crystal clear, intuitive guidance on what is the most aligned next step for us.
Mhm. Oh yeah, because whenever we're practicing like true self-care, we're really like calm and we can have that clarity as well. So even if like somebody doesn't necessarily believe in excuse me, like spirituality type things, they definitely have to agree that whenever you put the distractions aside, it's easier to calm down and focus.
That's right.
So, and with spirituality, you're allowed to, focus in on those intuitive messages and speaking to your guides and stuff as well. So, I love
Yeah,
that.
that's right, and, a lot of us don't realize, because again, the language of spirituality, it can be a little triggering for some,
Absolutely.
depending on, so many factors, where you
Mhm.
live, how you were raised, what
Mhm.
what religion, if any religion, you subscribe to, and, if you take the language out of it and just think about what we're talking about in general, like, women taking care of ourselves, that is our natural essence. Divine
Yep.
feminine energy is all about nurturing, but so many of us fail to nurture ourselves.
Mhm.
But take that language out of it, and what somebody, it was actually one of my therapists. I was in therapy for 10 years, and I learned a lot in therapy. And I struggled with mental health as well. I was on antidepressants and anti-anxiety medications for 10 years as
Mhm.
well. Started with postpartum depression,
Mhm.
and she was teaching me about grounding. Now,
Mhm.
today, grounding's totally different for me because I'm a student of shamanism, and
Right.
grounding is all about connecting with Mother Earth, the great mother, our biggest supporter. But what she told me 10 years ago, before I even knew what shamanism was, she said, they call it calming down because when you ground yourself, you calm your central nervous system down. And that makes so much sense to me because as
Mhm.
soon as we do those self-care practices, we ground ourselves, whether we're conscious of it or not, and
Mhm.
all of a sudden, that central nervous system calms down and we're overcome with peace. Take
Mhm.
the spirituality out of it. You think maybe you're having a thought like, "Ooh, I just had a good idea," but it's not a thought at all. It's your higher self or your guide speaking to you, and it's
Mhm.
okay if you don't, if that's not how you perceive it. You're still gonna get such a beautiful benefit when you
Mhm.
really take that time to yourself.
Absolutely. I like how you say like taking the language out of it because personally I grew up very strict Christian.
Mhm.
I've never even seen like the Harry Potter movies because I wasn't allowed
Mm.
to whenever I was younger, and then I just got older and wasn't interested. Which I might get a lot of hate for that. But anyway, no hate towards it. I just never watched it. So
Totally.
whenever I came into like whenever I first started therapy, well, one of my first starts with like a new therapist, I had to bounce around through a couple of them.
Mhm.
She talked about like meditation and yoga, and I was like, oh, I can't do that. Oh no, 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 that's against my religion. Like, nope, nope, shutting that out right now. But she was like, I'm a Christian too, and I was like, oh, okay. But,
Mhm.
I ended up looking through and I've had difference of like mindset and perspective and everything. But anyway, whenever you take away the language, it's more like accepting to like
Absolutely.
everybody, in which I
Absolutely.
like that. I seen
You
a
know
post not too long ago and it was like, Christians call it praying, witches call it spells, whoever calls it
Yes.
wishing. It's like it's all the same thing. It's a different language. It's a different word, but it's all the same.
You know what? I completely agree with that. For
Mhm.
myself growing up, I've got, a ton of American family and a ton of Canadian family. So,
Mhm.
I think my perspective is quite interesting, and I feel like my family in the South, like the deep Southeast US,
Mhm.
they look at the religion and the language that I use, and they just feel like it's so different.
Yeah.
But I agree with what you said. I think it's the same thing. It's just a different language. Like I would have
Mhm.
never said, I'll be honest with you. I had a bit of a religion trauma because
Mhm.
growing up really, really poor, the only thing that I knew about church was that every Sunday morning I would get sent off to Sunday school so my mom could sleep in. That was
Yeah.
it. She was a single mom with 3 young kids, and that was her day
Mhm.
where she got her free childcare because the Sunday school bus would pick us up at the door and drop us off later, and
Yeah.
now I can see why she took advantage of it, but that was the only thing that I knew about religion. It wasn't
Yeah.
practiced at home, it wasn't talked about at home, it was just you go to Sunday school, you learn a few things, and I, for a long time, didn't even like to use the word God because
Mhm.
I do pray. I'm a student of shamanism. I pray every single day, and I didn't always, but for the past year or so, I pray multiple times a day, but I would have never used the word pray. I
Right.
would I wouldn't use the word God. I wouldn't use all these words because the language would trigger me because it would bring me back to that place where my inner child felt neglected and abandoned
Yeah.
because my mom would just ship us off on Sunday mornings. And,
Yeah.
being raised by a single mom, obviously she's working all the time.
Yeah.
So, Sunday was really the only time that we got to see each other. Saturdays
Mhm.
sometimes, but sometimes she'd work. So it felt to me like, this is a bad thing.
Mhm.
But today, a big part of shamanism is opening up sacred space. Today, when I open up sacred space, I use words interchangeable. So,
Mhm.
God, Great Spirit, Creator, I use those words interchangeable. And that way, the women that I'm working with, they know that I'm speaking to their beliefs as well as my own, which is
Mhm.
really, really important.
Yeah, and it also shows like you're kind of like empathy. You don't want to trigger them as well. So, I mean, if
Absolutely.
it's all the same thing, then use whatever language pertains to that situation. Just like if I know Spanish and I go to
Yeah,
somebody's house and they all speak Spanish, I'm going to start speaking Spanish with them. I'm not going to just speak English and make them, overthink and be uncomfortable and stuff. So, I like that.
absolutely. And as a spiritual business mentor for anybody listening, like I see a huge opportunity for people who were raised in extremely religious upbringings, but are now finding themselves really leaning into spiritual practices because there are other people out there right now who want to learn the world of spirituality, but have no idea where to look. I mean, we can't deny that the world is waking up right now,
Oh
that
yeah.
people are experiencing spiritual awakenings left, right, and center. It is
Mhm.
happening every day in huge, huge, huge mass quantities. And
Mhm.
people have no idea how to navigate this world. They're like, oh, I really like crystals, but I don't know why, and I don't know anything about
Mhm.
them.
That was
Oh, you
like
know
me
what?
my whole life.
Yes,
I've
like,
always collected crystals. Like,
yeah.
I remember being out my great grandparents' driveway. They had a gravel driveway, but if you sat out there long enough and really picked
Mhm.
through, you could find some like crystals in there. And I would save
Absolutely.
them. I still have them in like a little jar from my great grandparents' driveway from when I was like 5 years old. I still have them. Like that's how special they were to me. And even now, like I have some kind of like heirlooms from my great grandmother and their crystals as well. She loved them too. And then I have them myself. And then like I'm a huge Pokemon fan, and I even have
Mm.
like Pokemon shaped crystals. I've
Oh,
just always
cool.
loved them. I know they have like frequency, and I don't know
Yes.
everything about them. I actually had another person on my podcast, and she was like, I personally don't believe in crystals. And I was like, I don't think they're magic all by themselves. I think that it takes intention behind them
Yes.
as well. And I also said that I think anybody who really works with them would agree, which you just did. So thank you for
Absolutely.
confirmation. But yeah, it's interesting. I've always loved them, and I didn't know why. I was like, oh, they're pretty, but the more I'm learning, I'm like, wow, they're like, these are attracted to certain people. Well, people are attracted to certain ones for certain reasons. And then you look at the meaning behind the crystal and you're like, holy cow, I need that in my life, and I've been attracted to it. And because it's like crystals that weren't even like my favorite color.
Mm.
So it's like, why I don't even like that color, why do I want that crystal?
Well,
So
that's a prime example of your intuition speaking to you. I mean, we can't
mhm.
deny that children are incredibly intuitive. They
Mhm.
haven't been disconnected from their intuition. I find that most of us are disconnected from our intuition for one of two reasons. And this is very vague. I'm not gonna say it's not. It's definitely, I'm generalizing here.
Yeah.
But one reason would be our environment. You know, maybe we were raised that spirituality is bad, and that listening to your intuition is wrong. You got to be a good girl. Don't say
Mhm.
anything, even if you're uncomfortable, because that's impolite. You have to
Yeah.
be a good girl. You know, that causes us to disconnect from our intuition, as well as, I'm not gonna go down the rabbit hole of, what some people believe are conspiracy theories, but let's be real.
I'm conspiracy theorist myself, so
Oh my goodness, there's so much fluoride everywhere. It's decalcifying
I
your third
don't use
eye.
fluoride toothpaste. I just switched
Neither
to
do
fluoride-free
I.
toothpaste. I
Neither do
won't let my
I.
I won't let my kid use fluoride toothpaste
Same,
and
same.
washing my fruits and vegetables and baking
Yes.
soda and yeah, no, I'm
Yes,
absolutely agree.
exactly. So our environment plays one big, big part in us disconnecting with our environment. For example, I was even at a client's house once, and her 2-year-old daughter came in and said, "Mommy, there's a man in my closet," and she was
Oh,
scared. And her
yeah.
dad immediately said, "No, honey, there's no man in your closet. Don't be silly. Don't be silly."
Mm,
Well, I was like, "Girlfriend, I think
there's a
there
man in
was
there.
a man in that closet, like, I can
Mhm.
feel it, don't worry, it doesn't feel bad, it doesn't feel bad." Her husband left, and she said, "Jenny, I've never told you this, but we bought this house off of an elderly couple. The husband died in the bedroom that my daughter's in now. Do you think that that's the husband?" I
Oh
said,
my
"That's
goodness.
definitely the husband." So that
Yeah.
leads me to the second reason we get disconnected from our intuition, because when, as children, we trust our intuition and we tell a trusted adult
Mhm.
something, if they deny our truth, that
Mhm.
teaches us from a very young age to ignore our intuition. Another
Mhm.
example, I had one client who told me that when she was young, she had an uncle that made her very, very uncomfortable. She would say that what he did to her was considered to be assault.
Mhm.
However, there was never anything that happened from that. He just was very, very, um, particular about the way he did it. Like, he would graze her chest or her bum when she was
Yeah.
little in a very, very in such a way that anybody watching wouldn't even quite notice what he was doing, but he made her so incredibly uncomfortable.
Mhm.
And he always told her parents, and their response was, "Oh, honey, you're his favorite. Of course he's always hugging you. Of course he's always hugging
Yeah.
you. You're his favorite niece." And that
Mhm.
led her to a long, long string of abusive boyfriends all throughout her life.
That's so sad.
And it is so sad, and what it does is it teaches us to disconnect with our intuition.
Yep.
So these practices, like meditation is huge, or even self-care in general, like we were talking about
Mhm.
earlier. These allow us to get back in touch with our intuition. Again, even if that language isn't speaking to you, it allows you to get back in touch with your true self and find out, what
Mhm.
is your purpose? What are you here for? What are you meant to do? Sometimes we can feel so stuck, and that's what I hear all the
Mhm.
time from my clients, like, "I know what I wanna do, I feel like I'm blocked, I feel like I'm blocking myself, I feel like I'm stuck." If we just
Mhm.
listen, we already know the next answer. We just have to
Yeah.
listen for
Yep. That's I mean, I relate to like every single thing you just
it.
talked about.
Mhm.
Like I'm very passionate about like consent in children and listening to children, and believing them and stuff. And I mean, it's even caused like family issues because I'm so firm on that.
Good for
Um thank you. And then again with like the intuition and feeling stuck, I went through so I felt like stuck whenever I first started my healing journey, but it was like like I felt sad and irritable and stuff. And so I knew I had to learn to manage my feelings. And then I learned to manage my feelings and I felt stuck like in life in a
you.
totally different way. And so that's whenever I started to do kind of like more like meditation, yoga. I even do some like sage burning
Yes.
um, and like trying to get out and ground and get some sun and just trying to be more like in touch with myself. And it was I mean, you can like go back on my TikTok and my Instagram and you can see whenever I first started my business, I started as just like a self-care influencer. Um and I just wanted to influence people and that was it. But I literally have videos of me doing my saging and my yoga and stuff And then you slowly see me progress into the mental health coach. And now I'm spreading inspiration and coaching people. And it just shows that whenever you align with yourself, you align with your path, your life, and you start moving in the direction that you want to go.
Absolutely. And, obviously I'm a little biased because I
Mhm.
am a spiritual business mentor, but I believe that we are all here for a reason. We
Oh
all have a
yes.
purpose. And
Mhm.
what the women that I work with, because they are all, whether they realize it when we start working together or not, they're all coaches and mentors themselves.
Mhm.
And what they help their clients with are so varied. For example, I have one client who she helps women who are survivors of narcissistic abuse. I have another woman who is a Reiki practitioner who was doing a lot of in-person sessions, and she wanted to create a 12-week program so she could help more people at once rather than spreading herself so thin. Um,
Mhm.
Another client who is a psychic medium who teaches other people how to develop their intuition. The sky's the limit. Another client who helps women learn how to navigate the adoption process. There's no limit as to what type of coaching business you can create.
No.
The easiest way to determine what your purpose is to look at what major life lessons have I come out on the other side of.
Mhm.
Like for
Mhm.
me, I started with I had a major fat loss transformation myself. I went
Mhm.
from 35 pounds overweight to a bodybuilder. And
Nice.
I just, was so uncomfortable with my body that I did
Mhm.
this transformation and I was successful with it. And I learned how to eat food while, like, be able to lose fat while still eating my favorite foods. I had cookies and pizza whenever I wanted. And
Nice.
that turned into my fat loss coaching business. And as I kept navigating my spiritual journey, I was sharing with my clients everything I was doing. Like, hey, I was
Mhm.
curious about crystals, so I learned more about crystals. And I was curious about oracle cards, so I learned more about oracle cards. And I
Mhm.
found that the only fat loss coaching clients that were keeping the weight off were the ones that were doing the spiritual practices. So
Mhm.
I reinvented my business and I became a spiritual alignment coach. And I was helping people who were where I was a few years ago. And
Yeah.
today, as a spiritual business mentor, I've been a coach now for almost 10 years, and out of those
Mhm.
10 years, half of them my business has made more than 6 figures a year.
That's
So
awesome.
today, I am helping people who are where I was 5 years ago.
Yeah.
They know that they're here for a purpose. They know that abundance is their birthright.
Mhm.
They know that when they show up in service to the universe, that the universe will repay them, and
Mhm.
they just don't know the how.
Yeah.
So, what I teach them is to really, really hone in on your purpose. Find out, like, what is your purpose? Like, what are you meant to help people with right now? And that's going to change, as you
Mhm.
grow and evolve and change, that will change as well. And then the second thing I teach them is to prioritize their own healing journey, because
Mhm.
we will always show up as our best when we take care of ourselves first, like you and I have already talked about today.
Mhm.
And then how included in that is really, again, learning how to trust your own intuition,
Yep.
developing your own spiritual gifts, because if you whether you use that language or not, we've all got them. Hands up
Mhm.
if you have ever been in a room and somebody walks in and you immediately know that something's wrong with them.
Yep.
That is
Oh,
a spiritual gift.
yeah, all the time. I've always known, and I was really uncomfortable with like the word empath, but I mean, there's total strangers that I can read people like instantly, and I mean, I've blown people away with this. I just meet them, and they'll say something. I'm like, yeah, you seem like that kind of person, and it'll kind of intrigue them, and I'll be like, so do you like this too? And they're like, yes. I'm like, oh really? Well, and it gets me going sometimes, because I'm like, how do I know that? Like, I love that. And then same with like my business here, I've tried to you gave me an analogy that really stuck out with me about training the dog. Your intuition being like training a puppy, a stubborn puppy.
It's so true. If you look on
It's
one
so
shoulder,
true.
you've got the devil or the ego. You
Yeah.
look on the other shoulder, you've got the angel or the higher self, and
Yeah.
that ego is just like a dominant male puppy, you know, if it
Yeah.
for example, I've got a Great Dane, I've got 2 of them, but my male is very dominant, and I have a
Mhm.
white comforter on my bed. So this boy is not allowed on my bed,
No.
and, you know, if I leave the house and leave him home alone, sometimes he'll go in my bed, and
Yes.
if he does, I have to make sure that he knows not to go on the bed at least 10 times before he actually remembers, "Oh, yeah, I'm not allowed on the bed. I'm not
Mhm.
allowed on the bed." If he gets away with it once, he thinks he's in charge, and the ego is the
Yeah.
same way. If the ego throws a little bit of procrastination at you and it works, and
Mhm.
you're like, "Oh, I'm just not gonna do it," you know, "I'm just
Mhm.
not gonna, you know, I should really do some planning for this business idea. You know what? Actually, I'm gonna completely reorganize my closet instead." 'Cause
Could
that
you
seems to
quit
be
calling me out?
I am with you. I am with you. I always say to my clients,
That's
"Don't ever
yeah.
put me on a pedestal because 'cause I'm on this journey
Mhm.
as well." I am constantly
Mhm.
battling my ego, and a big part of that ego is also imposter syndrome, you know, like,
Yep.
"Who am I?" I didn't go to college or university, you
Right.
know, I don't have a lot of training. I just
Right.
have a lot of life experience, and I have a lot of experience working with other clients, so there's a lot of evidence that what I do works, and
Mhm.
now at this point in my journey, I also have a lot of guidance from a lot of spirit allies, which is really beautiful. Even today,
Yeah.
before we started, I have an energy protection, and I call it spiritual hygiene. But if you
Mhm.
don't like that word, you can always use energy hygiene.
Mhm.
I have a whole practice where first I cleanse my energy, and I also use sage or Palo Santo, or sometimes,
Okay, listen. So
yeah,
sorry, I had to
no good.
right before I was getting ready, okay? I was getting ready to get my little book together and stuff, and I smelt sage, but I didn't have
Ah,
any burning. And
so
I was like, "Oh,
Ivy, not only are you an empath, but you also have clairsalience.
that's
Clairsalience
crazy.
is the ability to smell. You know, sometimes you'll smell sage when somebody else is burning sage, or you'll
That's
smell like
crazy."
your great-grandmother's baby.
Always.
She's been
I've
long
always been
gone.
super sensitive with my smells, always,
Yes.
since I could like, always. And I always get crazy smells every now and then, or like it'll be like a men's cologne or like burning wood or uh, the craziest smells, and there's nowhere near, and it'll kind of drive me nuts sometimes because
Mhm.
I'll look around looking for the smell and I cannot find it. But no, today as I was
Now,
getting ready, I walked through the very center of my living room and I smelled sage.
that
And I
was
was like,
me all the way in Western Canada.
that's crazy because I've like in the center of my living room, there's nothing that I looked, there's nothing on fire. And I was like, I wonder, because it wouldn't surprise me, you know, you're a spiritualist. I was like, I wonder if she's burning something right now. And I'm like, no, that's silly. And then you say
Absolutely.
that, I was like, what?
I don't
Okay,
do any type of work. I don't even okay, this might sound extreme to some, but I live very rural. I'm in the middle of the forest.
same,
I'm yeah, 30, 40 minutes to town. I don't
same.
even go to town without doing energy hygiene. I just
Wow.
don't, because not only is it about cleaning your like cleansing your energy, but it's
Hmm.
also about protecting your energy. As
Hmm.
empaths, 9 times out of 10, if we are feeling stress, worry, or anxiety, it's
Hmm.
not even ours. It's
I've
not even,
had that so many times.
yeah, it's like,
So many times. I'm
oh,
like,
you walk
why am I
into, well,
anxious?
who can go to Costco? You know,
Uh,
you go to Costco and it's
Walmart stresses me out. My goodness.
like,
And
this
it's
is what I'm
interesting too, because
saying.
like the different kind of stores, I know people. I've heard it. I've like seen it on the internet, and it's like a silly thing. You know, you go to Target, and it just feels different than Walmart. But
Mhm.
it's so true because if you think about the type of people that are in Target versus the type of people that are in Walmart, I
Yes.
mean, I don't want to be like stereotypical, but the cheap stuff is at Walmart, and I know I personally can't go to Target too often.
Yep.
Um, so I know the more expensive stuff is there, you know, and
Absolutely. And you
it's
know,
crazy.
this is I'm glad that you said that, because one of the easiest ways that we can up level our own vibration and step into the version of us who is successful, who is already achieving her goals, who already has an abundance, like more than enough money to do whatever she wants, more than enough time freedom to be able to do what she wants when she wants, is to put ourselves in environments where
Mhm.
wealthy, successful people would be,
Yeah.
because there is so much to be said about the energy of it. You just explained
Mhm.
it with Walmart versus Target, but let
Yeah.
me just like push that a little further. One thing that I've invested heavily in my journey, okay? I have
Mhm.
spent tens of thousands of dollars on coaches and mentors.
Mhm.
And, I didn't spend that all at once. It was definitely a slow build. I started with a really, really low price coach and I saw some good results, but I wanted more results. So I got a
Yeah.
higher price coach and I saw some great results, but I wanted more. So I got a really high ticket coach and saw extreme results. So
Mhm.
that's been my experience. But my high ticket coach, what she taught me was to, and this was back when I had a different type of relationship with alcohol. She taught me to go into a really swanky hotel bar and order myself a glass of wine, dress up
Mhm.
really, really nice, go by myself. I could go with my husband if I wanted to, but go, or a girlfriend, it didn't matter. But I chose to go by myself and just be in that energy. Just
Mhm.
be in the energy of wealth and abundance, and let
Mhm.
me tell you, that experience was so insane. Very, very, very shortly after that experience, I manifested a trip. It came completely out of nowhere. I had been thinking about it. I thought, "You know what? I would really, really love to go on a trip." And
Mhm.
not 2 weeks later, I had it booked and paid for.
That's
I
awesome.
was like, "Whoa,
And
oh my
it's
god."
funny that you mentioned the bar too, because the event that I was at last night was in a bar, in a city. And I used to have terrible anxiety going into cities and stuff. And I've personally never even been in a bar. So I was real nervous to go in there, but we were in like a historical district.
Oh, cool.
And so, and I didn't know that before going in there. But it was in like a more wealthier part of town, and everybody in there you could tell were more successful and stuff. And just like the energy in there, like everybody was happy, everybody was vibrant. I mean, it was like a women's empowerment event too, but
Yes.
still, like, just the workers were like amazing. But like, you look on the movies and the bars are always just so sad and
Mhm.
depressing and like trouble and stuff. And I mean, you hear about it on the news too in real life. So I was really nervous, but then I go in there and it was like so light and bubbly and fun. And I'm like, this is what it's about. Like, I could go to a bar if this was it. And they had some good mac and cheese, but
Absolutely. For myself, again, going back to energy protection, as long as I put up some energy protection, I've got no problem going into places like that. In fact, I
Mhm.
used to be a bartender when I was younger because, I mean, hey, I wanted to be home with my baby when I was so young. It was the only way
Yeah,
I could do it.
yeah.
Um, and I think that there's so much to be said about the energy of our environments. I mean,
Mhm.
my house is for sale right now. We're looking for an acreage because don't get me wrong, I'm all about wealth and prosperity and success, and I love my six-figure vehicle, but I also am craving getting back to my natural roots. I'm looking for an acreage so I can grow my own food and have
Oh,
chickens
do
from
it.
eggs, and I will do it.
Do
Yeah,
it. I
by
have a
now.
lot of acreage and
uh,
I love it.
I'm a manifester. I will manifest
Mhm.
this. But we had the realtor come into our house and he was like, and Ivy, I'll send you a link to it later just so you can see and you can understand what I'm saying.
Mhm.
He walked into our house and was like, "Oh my goodness, the energy of your house is so incredible." It
Yeah.
is so good. And he said, I don't know exactly how it is where you are, but where I am, the market is still not that great. Interest
Yeah.
rates are high and
Yeah.
houses are not moving. Our house has been listed for several months, which is
Oh.
really uncomfortable, but I trust in divine timing, so it's okay.
Mhm. It'll
But
work out.
exactly. And, a couple months went by and my husband started to get nervous and he said, "Peter, do you think that we should reduce the price of our house?" And our realtor said, "Absolutely not. Your house
No.
is going to sell itself. The energy of your house is so good. Trust me, I'm in houses all day long. Some of them really, really stink.
Yeah.
not not literally, but the
Yeah.
energy of them is really, really terrible. The energy of your
Yeah.
house is so good. It's going to sell itself. Don't you worry." And that's
Love
what
it.
we've done. And you know what? I trusted that as well when my husband first came
Mhm.
to me and said, "Should we reduce the cost?" I said, "No, definitely
No.
not." But he still wanted to ask the realtor because he's the
Yeah.
expert, and I respect that.
Yeah.
But yeah, energy is so much more than we think it is. Let's just take, for example, one of the first lessons when I was a spiritual alignment coach, one of the very first lessons in my 16-week program was energy in your home. And let's take, for example, if you had a t-shirt from an old boyfriend,
Mm,
that t-shirt has energy. So now you're with a new partner, now you have a family, now you have your new life, but you still have this t-shirt in your drawer. It has energy because every time you see it, it makes you feel something.
true.
Whether
Yeah.
that makes you feel anger, frustration, longing, disappointment, regret, any of those things, that t-shirt is making you feel something because it has energy. So if anybody's listening and they're like, okay, I really need to do something about the energy in my house because I just sit in the house all day and I'm so frustrated and I just cope with that screen scrolling that Jenny was talking about earlier.
Yeah.
And I'm just so overwhelmed and anxious all the time. The first thing that you can do is like move a bedroom around. Move a
Yeah.
bedroom around, do a closet purge,
Yeah.
paint,
I
do
do.
something.
I do that often. It's almost like I need to do it. Like I will feel so like frustrated and kind of like overwhelmed whenever my house starts to get too cluttered and stuff
Same.
like that. And I mean, I do have like ADHD and OCD, so it goes
Same.
along with that. But I mean, whenever you think about like the energy, I mean, it makes sense because usually when things are cluttered, it's with like trash or things that just don't belong,
That's right.
and you
In
feel that.
In shamanism, we call it hucha. Hucha is
I like that.
dense or heavy energy. So to
I like
me, when I'm using sage, I'm like, I thank you, sacred sage, for cleansing the hucha out of my home. Thank you for cleansing the hucha off of my body. Thank you for cleansing the hucha out of this space. And what I've learned is that hucha really likes to accumulate in corners and in clutter. So look
makes
around your
sense.
house. Where do you have your clutter? I don't know about you,
I'm
but for us,
looking at it right now.
yeah, we always have a pile on the island.
Mine is on the top of my entertainment center in my living room because it's like the only place in the house that my kid can't reach.
We're
So
gonna
it's got like
have
all of
her.
her annoying toys up there and then
Yeah.
all of my like pretties and stuff as well.
So if you're ever finding yourself feeling overwhelmed, Ivy, you just tackle that clutter pile, and that's
That's
gonna
what I
shift
do.
everything. It will
It
shift
helps.
everything.
It does. It truly does. I've done it
Mhm.
so many times. I
Absolutely, and,
love it.
in I know sometimes, like, going back to what we were saying about, like, getting curious about, things like crystals and sage and those types of things, always follow your curiosity. There's no wrong way to do any of this stuff,
No.
okay? The spirit world, the spirit of sage is not gonna be like, "I'm not gonna clear the energy because she doesn't know how to do it." No, that's not
Yeah.
how it works. Sage is a frequency, just like the
Hmm.
crystals are frequencies, just like you and I have frequencies that go up and down and everywhere in between all day long.
Hmm.
This frequency of sage will work no matter what. The most
Hmm.
important thing is to put your intention into it. So if your
Yeah.
intention is to burn that sage with the intention that it's going to clear the hucha out of your home or off of your body, then it
Yeah.
will work. Yes, of course, definitely traditions in different cultures, but I'm grateful
Hmm.
to be training in multicultural shamanism. So I'm actually learning about
Okay.
shamanism from the North American indigenous, the Peruvian, which I'm going to Peru in June, so I'll learn more there,
Ooh.
but Celtic shamanism, Mongolian I'm learning all of it. And,
Yeah.
so often we will stop ourselves from doing these things because of that imposter syndrome. We think like, "Well, I don't know enough, so I'm just not gonna do it." But my greatest advice for that is follow your curiosity. If you're
So,
thinking about it, that's because you're supposed
wow.
to do it.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened to me. Um, because I was always curious about sage. So I do have Native American like in my lineage. I don't know
Mm.
exactly how much or where it is, but I've always felt super connected to that and just Native American people, culture, all that has just always been super intriguing to me and always felt like home in a way. Like that's what I am, even though that's
Oh.
not fully, what I am.
Mhm.
And so for a while, I kept telling myself, like, I want to burn sage. I see people doing it all the time. But then I've also seen like the cultural appropriation about like, I'm not Native American
Mhm.
fully or presenting or whatever, so I can't do it. And there was just so much negativity that I heard about it, and you can't
Mhm.
do it wrong, and blah, 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 blah. But I was curious. And so I didn't care what people were saying.
Good for you.
And I decided to do my own research. And so I looked into Native American practices and how they do it. And I seen that they would do it with like groups of people who weren't even Native American as well.
Mm.
And they would help so many other people with it. And they were encouraging with it and stuff. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do this. So I went out, I bought myself some, and I even got some of the paleo
Palo
wood.
Santo?
Yes, I have some of that as well.
Beautiful.
Thank you. So yeah, and it truly, it really helps, even if it is, like a mind over matter type of thing, or like the placebo effect, because that's kind of how it felt at first before I like really learned more about it.
Mhm.
um it's calming, like no matter how you look at it, whether you're doing it spiritually or as a way to just calm yourself, like it works.
Well, burning sage or Palo Santo is my favorite way to ground in the winter. Like, we just got 9 inches of snow in the last 2 days, and I don't really wanna go outside right now, so
Yeah.
to be able to burn some sage or Palo Santo, it absolutely grounds us, and, I love what you said about the placebo effect because my husband, we're high school sweethearts, and he's like, "Who are you? You are not the same person that I married, like, what?" And
Yeah.
I'm like, "No, because I'm always growing." But he's not on 100% of the same page as I am, and that's okay, but I
Hmm.
know that this works because even he will sometimes, if he's feeling really anxious, he will come and grab the Palo Santo and light it and smudge himself.
Oh,
So
I love that.
I know that, and I mean, I know for other reasons, but, there's not a doubt in my mind that this stuff works. Again, just follow your curiosity because
Hmm.
otherwise, we're just gonna be like, "Oh, I'm not gonna do it because I don't know how," or, "I'm not
Yeah.
gonna do it because, I think that it's inappropriate for me." Absolutely not. Every
Hmm.
single one of us is connected. If you go back to family trees, every single one of us has indigenous blood within us. It doesn't matter where in the world you are from, every continent has their own indigenous people, and every single one of us came from those indigenous people.
Yep.
Like, my family is very young. I had my son at 19. My mom had my older sister at 18. My grandma had her first baby at 18. Like, it's just young,
Hmm.
young, young family. So you go back and it's like, "Oh my goodness, there's like 5 generations that are still alive," as opposed to my husband's family who had kids quite older, there's only 3 generations alive.
Yeah.
We're all connected at some point. You just have to go back, depending on how young or old your family is, you have to go back a certain number of generations to see that, yes, we were. And even if your family is from settlers, even if your family did come from another continent, that continent has their own indigenous people as well.
Hmm.
Yeah,
That's
there's
true.
all of these practices and rituals, they are ancient wisdom and they are meant to be shared. While there is a lot of talk about cultural appropriation, there are also quite a number of respected elders who are very generously sharing this wisdom because they
Hmm.
want the people to be more connected to Mother Earth, because the more connected to Mother Earth we are, the better we're gonna treat her and the better we're
Hmm.
gonna treat each other.
I agree. For
Yeah,
sure, because it's definitely the separation is what is tearing us apart, literally.
absolutely.
The way that we are, I mean, we have all kinds of separations like everywhere. And if we could all just learn to come together and just live together and be grounded together, I mean, the world would be such a better place.
Absolutely. That's one of
Then we wouldn't
the
be able to learn the lessons we're here to learn, but we'll
main
get there one day.
we would still learn them, but hopefully in a little more gentle way.
True, true. We'd find
Some of
ways.
us have had to learn our lessons in quite the strong, powerful way, and I have a feeling that, anybody who's listening, they're gonna be attracted to your energy because they're on a similar journey to you, and,
Hmm.
you and I were attracted to each other's energy for the same reason, and so
Yeah,
many of us.
instantly.
Yes, we are the wounded healers. We're able to
Hmm.
help people because we've been through some hard things ourselves, and,
Hmm.
that's the journey of our souls evolving. That's
Hmm.
literally what we're here for, is for our soul to evolve and to learn, and, once we can do those things and put that dominant male puppy ego to the side,
Yes.
then we can really, really, not only learn the lessons, but really integrate the lessons so that we don't have to learn them again. Going back to the example of, the client with the string of terrible, terrible boyfriends, it's like,
Yeah.
the universe will give us the same lesson over and over and over again until we finally learn the
Yes.
lesson. And I do believe a lot of us, that lesson is to learn to trust our intuition. That's a huge
Hmm.
life lesson.
Yeah, because I mean, it'll guide us where we need to go. So I agree.
Absolutely.
Man, Jenny, I feel like I could talk to you forever on this.
I
I
know. Me
can't believe
too.
it's been almost an hour already. I looked at the time and I was like, "Holy cow, this has flown by."
Yes.
It's a very good conversation. Is there, because I don't want to keep you all day, I'm sure I could. Is there anything else that you wanted to mention before we hop off?
Well, just if this is speaking to anybody and you're looking for some inspiration, I'm so open to connection. I just think it's such a beautiful thing, and I'm so detached from whether or not I get another client at this point in my journey in my career. I know that I'm meant to work with the people that I'm meant to work with, and I will not work with the people that I'm not meant to work with, but I
Hmm.
still love and crave that conscious connection. So I'm
Hmm.
sure that, Ivy, you'll have my information in the description, but feel free to reach out to
Absolutely.
me on Facebook. I do one-on-one readings as well. A lot of people ask me for the intuitive guidance from their higher self and their spirit guides if they're not somebody who's connected themselves. And I really
Hmm.
love to do those readings. And then, of course, if you're thinking like, hey, I think I'm supposed to be a coach, then let me help you if you're feeling
Hmm.
called to my energy. I've had many business coaches, and I know that what I do is so different because I am really encouraging you to receive guidance from your higher self the whole way through. And that
Hmm.
is equally as important as having a strategy.
Yes. You want to talk about your freebie? I don't think we've discussed that
Yes.
yet.
Oh, that's right. We've talked a lot about energy protection today. I actually do have a free masterclass that comes with an ebook. It's called The Empath's Guide to Energy Protection. And these are just some practices that I do every single day that help me protect my energy so that I'm not absorbing other people's anxiety and fear. And let's be real, there's a lot of collective anxiety in the world right now.
Hmm.
And if you are not
Yes.
consciously cleansing that out of your energy field, then it will affect you. No ifs,
Hmm.
ands, or buts about it, especially if you are an empath. So this is
Hmm.
a beautiful masterclass. I've gotten some really great feedback on it, and like I said, it comes with an ebook as well. So if you want a copy of that, just check out the link in the description, and it's
Yep.
completely free, and you can watch it at your own time and use it and ask me questions if any questions come up.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, I'll make sure that's linked in the description as well as like where to contact you on Facebook and your Instagram too.
Beautiful. Well, thank
Awesome.
you so much for having me. I
Thank
feel the
you for
same
being
way.
here.
Yeah, I feel like we could just talk about this for hours,
For
and I hope that everybody reading gets a lot of value out of what we've shared together today.
yes, I agree. Well, thank you again.
Sure.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye.